Well, hey, morning gamers. Welcome to the Blue Gamer Bluecast morning show. I'm your host, Adam Blue, 30 plus year video game enthusiast. Yeah, every morning talk video game news, what I've been getting into. It's always different. It's always different. Yeah, let's see what I got into today. Yeah, usually with these, I start with showing off what I've been playing. Kind of interesting what's been going on, actually. So yesterday, I actually didn't play that much yesterday. I logged into Street Fighter 6 just to like look at kind of getting an understanding of how some of the game modes work because they got their like battle pass thing going on and they have some like Fatal Fury stuff that looks cool, and I was just checking. I didn't understand anything. And then I tried to play online and it wouldn't match me with anyone, and so I was like, all right, I don't know what to do, so I stopped. That's very weird. Either that's a me problem or it's a problem with Street Fighter 6, but I couldn't figure out how to get going. That was weird. Hey Jim Kellex, good to see you. Okay. So the other thing is I played Star Wars Outlaws for like 30 minutes, but it's interesting that Exophase hasn't updated since August 31st, or at least the connection to the Ubisoft Connect, and I did the whole, run profile scan again. So I don't know what's up with that. Although the forums are and the support's pretty active here. So if I was to submit something, sometimes they can manually do something on the back end. Not that it's a big deal, but it's just I rely on this as a means of talking about remembering what I've been playing. But really, yesterday I didn't play a lot at all. Like I said, I jumped into Star Wars Outlaws just for like a second, and I did like a couple missions real fast. But really, I did other things. Went outside, went to the park. Just every once in a while, I just won't feel like playing video games, and I'll go do something else, which is perfectly fine because I play video games so much that when I'm not playing, it's yeah. And I think that's what helped when I was younger too, because I've noticed where there are people out there that I know when I talk about video games, they'd be like, "Oh no, 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 I can't play. I get addicted." And I never understood that, but I guess that just always depends on how you were introduced to something, because with me in video games, it had been since I was really young. And at first, video games were just okay. It wasn't anything amazing until Sonic came out. And then I liked that. And then I would play. But it was interesting how even when I was younger, I would stop after a period of time and go do something else. So I think because I played when I was younger, but consistently while having other things to do, I kind of formed this relationship with video games where it doesn't take over. Which I'm thankful for, because I could see where a lot of video games have those, like, that's why mobile gaming is so popular, because video games can have those little sticky points of whether it's like the gambling, the psychology of like what could be next or whatever, and get people. Yeah, I remember the one thing I would hear a lot is people that weren't into video games were talking about how they would be addicted to like the NBA 2K or something like that. Where they would play it too much when the new version would come out. But no, yeah, anyway, yeah, that's the thing. That's what was boring video game related when I was uh, off work yesterday. Nothing. It's just nothing. Uh, just kind of chilling. And I wonder if I'm bouncing back from an overcorrection of playing a lot of video games last week. Because here's the thing: we've got Space Marine 2 and Astro Bot coming, which we're going to get into the reviews here shortly. Jim Killex, same, started at 4.5 years old. Yeah, that's cool. It's an interesting time for us where, like, when we were younger, these newer concepts are being introduced, these video game concepts. And now, for younger kids, it's more of part of the mainstream, but it wasn't before, which is interesting. Um, okay, well, you know what? So that's it. I did not do much yesterday at all, video game related, but we're going to look at reviews for two games. Space Marine 2 and Astro Bot are releasing this week. I have them both pre-ordered. Let's look at Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2, a meta score of 83. Across Xbox, PC, and PS5, it's got, a point difference of score. So yeah, let's look down at the critic reviews. Although again, like I've learned recently going through these, some of these I don't recognize. So it's like try hard guides. I would have to read more, understand them more to understand how much this 100 really means, you know. So Games Machine, Game Watcher, Game Star. Sorry, excuse me. Let's see. Uh, yeah, it's hard. Yeah, Gaming Age. Maybe it's just it's been around for a while. Game Rant. Wait, hold on. Man, multiple sneezes this morning. Sorry. But why though? The Games Machine. See, a lot of these I haven't even heard of. Games Radar Plus. Eurogamer gave it an 80. Okay. Yeah, so sitting at an 80, or seeing a lot of 80s there, seeing these, you know, the 83, 82, 81, whatever. Yeah, seems like it's interesting because to me it seems like it would be a higher score than that. Just in terms of what it looks like it is, and historically, you know, like the Gears of War style thing. But it could be that this is a more accurate representation, whereas sometimes these third-person action games would get really high scores that, or maybe I'm just thinking that aren't really that great. And so, yeah, it's interesting because this is Space Marine 2, so this is a sequel, but it's a different publisher than the first one that was made over 10 years ago. So it makes it seem like that the IP isn't of that much of an importance then in that case, but anyway, what I'm trying to say is I would think the IP alone would give this a higher score. But I mean, it's a good score. The reviews, I've been watching reviews of those that I trust, and everything they're saying about it. Carrick with ACG says this is a must buy. So yeah. Okay. But yeah, I wonder if I should dive into like, I mean, it's a third person shooter. I don't know. There's nothing else. It's almost like I know what I'm gonna get out of that. Okay, so this is the interesting one. This is Astro Bot, and I played Playroom and the VR one on PS5. You know, there's a PS5 packing game, and then there's a PSVR game. Played both of those, had a ton of fun, but it's got a 94 with a must-play Metacritic. That's pretty crazy. Based on 96 critic reviews, I mean that's a lot. Can't say again that I recognize everything. Let's see. I mean, yeah, you've got outlets called PlayStation giving it. I mean, there's a lot of hundreds here, and that could be accurate. Easy Allies giving it Eurogamer 100. That's insane. How much is this? Is that Xbox tax, right? Where the PlayStation just gets higher. You know, it's kind of like what I was talking about with that Warhammer game getting it's like depending on the IP, if that nudges a review score up or down. And I wonder how much this being a first party PlayStation platformer kind of gives it higher scores, you know. Not saying that it's not deserving of it. I have this pre-ordered also. I cannot wait. This game is going to be fun. GameSpot giving it a 90. Okay. So there are it's just crazy that these two games coming out this week, high reviews. Now, the thing with Warhammer is if you have it pre-ordered that has the early access, you can play today in a little bit. So that's what I'm hoping for, although I'll be technically working, but like this evening, I'll be able to jump in because then otherwise I think it's Monday. But you know, on one hand, it's like I don't need this early access because I haven't beat Outlaws, I haven't beat Wukong, I haven't beat Gundam Breaker 4. We just got that Castlevania collection, so it's like, what am I even doing? But you know, this is how it's always been. I think it's where it's like sometimes there's a flood of games, you don't get to them all. And then as it starts drying up, you have some that you can go back to. That doesn't always happen though. Sometimes it's like it has to be the right place, right time to play a game, or you won't touch it again. So I wonder if that's going to happen with some of these games. Excuse me, real quick. Sorry about that. I think the remnants of the cold that I had last week. Okay, so if it's anything like Astro's Playroom, then it's probably really good. Yeah, that's the thing. That Astro's Playroom is so good. I mean, it's funny. I don't know if that's what sparked making this game, or they were already going to be making it just because that was a kind of a quick turnaround, or was that a quick turnaround? It's like 3 or 4 years. Yeah, they could have done it. So, and man, time has flown since the PS5 came out. COVID, all that stuff. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's move on to this. Konami reveals all new video game deliver at all costs. So that's very interesting. So Konami just came out with Signy, which was that shmup that was actually pretty interesting. I don't think it really moved the needle in terms of getting people interested in that IP, that game. I mean, it was free on the Epic Store, so it hopefully got some good exposure, but even I haven't gone back to it with everything else. But Konami has this other game, Deliver at All Costs. Again, another thing that doesn't look like Konami would be publishing, but it looks like a smaller title that has some fun gameplay stickiness to it. So looking at it, the graphics look real good, but it has that old school GTA perspective, and it looks like it's very heavy with physics. So there's gonna be a lot to it of like, I guess, neat gameplay, destruction, the physics, while actually looking good. So, oh yeah, look at that. So it looks like there's a storm and and then you can walk around as a person. I mean, that looks neat. I don't know what to think because I'd still have to like really get an understanding of what the actual gameplay loop is, other than seeing that okay, there's physics, driving around, etc. No date other than coming out sometime in 2025, but it's just very interesting to see from Konami them publishing a game like this. Interesting. Let's see what else Konami will be up to. Okay. The other thing here, so let's look at the gaming leaks and rumors. From Lunatic Ignis, the big announcement from Sony will take place next week, and the SOP, State of Play, will take place on the 20th of September. Okay, so apparently there's going to be some big news for next week, and I'm sure that's to kind of quickly move on from Concord. I think Sony has to have something where they probably planned this, once the first kind of like the early response to Concord came out, to have something else that they can get the attention from. Not too sure what it will be. We have Astro Bot, but what else would Sony be, talking about? I think there's going to be a lot of interesting announcements soon, because potentially Switch 2, which is the next thing here. Switch 2 has seemingly entered mass production due to Hosoden Graphics. Expect September news. So again, some more news. And I think what's going to happen is when you have one company that has big news, I think the other companies have to come up with something too. So this is a time where we might be hearing from Xbox having their handheld. I think Sony, I would not be surprised. It's big news is probably more details on that PS5 Pro. Probably. I just think it's a lost opportunity for Sony not to also have a handheld other than something like the Portal. The Portal's a cool idea, but the idea would be, and honestly, they should, actually, I was about to say they should just call it Vita 2, just to not confuse people because all the things, but really the idea for the console would be a handheld version, in terms of like game sharing, like, you want to be able to play your games on the PS5 and whatever this new portable would be. So it could be, excuse me, that Sony isn't even looking into doing the portable thing, even though those were rumors of that. And then, the Xbox handheld thing seems like it's going to be likely. So it would be very interesting to see the hardware rumors. If we're going by what it looks like is going to happen, Nintendo's going to announce a Switch 2, Xbox is going to announce a handheld, and Sony is going to reveal their PS5 Pro. So it'll be interesting. You know what? I saw and this could have been someone just having fun, or I don't know if it was based off of maybe some leaked design documents, but it was like a Switch 2. So it looked like a Switch, but with more gaming handles, like I've been talking about with like the GameSir G8 on mobile, like the better controllers, but also the screen folded down. So it was like a screen that would open up to have a bigger screen. That could potentially be the dual screen to emulate DS and 3DS, but they might not necessarily go that direction. Anyway, so curious to see with these announcements of these hardware manufacturers what it's going to be. That's exciting stuff. From Nate the Hate, the Switch 2 has backwards compatibility support. Seems likely. With all the announcements Nintendo's been making for Switch, and then everyone's just waiting for that Switch 2 to drop, it would be wrong if they dropped the Switch 2 and you couldn't play all these Switch 1 games that they're announcing. Especially the new Zelda. I mean, they could do it like they've done it in the past where they just, release it again and then you buy it again. I did that. Breath of the Wild, even Twilight Princess, which was that a total of 3 times? Wii U. No. GameCube, Wii, and then I think Wii U had the remake, right? Wow. Yeah, Twilight Princess. That was a really good one. But it was just weird when it came out because it came out on GameCube, but then the Wii was the console to have. But then it added the motion controls and it made it where Link was right-handed, so they flipped to the world. That was a whole weird time where I just avoided that game, but eventually played it. And it's one of my favorite Zeldas. Okay. Was there anything? No, I don't think there's anything else here from the leaks in rumors Reddit. Let's see. Let's just jump into some news. The latest news topics. See if there's anything interesting. Sony execs claims the company isn't creating enough original franchises. I don't know if that's true. I think just some of the original franchises aren't really hitting. I mean, God of War, Horizon, Uncharted. I mean, they have a ton. Astro Bot. Let's see. Astro Bot DLC will include challenge and speedrun levels. We'll see how interesting enough the game is for me to want to get the DLC. I mean, and it could be that it's great, but I don't need the DLC. That happens a lot. Let's see. Does Sony need new IP or can it just revive? Wow, why is this really a topic? Maybe because of, I guess, a Sony exec saying something, but even here they're showing IPs that they have. It reminds me of like how Warner Brothers was with their movies and stuff. It's like they just give up on this stuff too quick. It's like, nah, let it cook a little bit, get that feedback, let it cook, just continue, build a fan base. Does the rise of expandalone games mean the end for big DLC? No, I mean, the thing with Dying Light 2 DLC, The Beast, was the fact that it got leaked, so they decided to reconfigure it and make it a game. I mean, it really just depends. I mean, I don't know. Undead Labs ending support for State of Decay 2 to focus on sequel. Yeah, I mean, State of Decay 2 has been out for a while. Even the first one. And it's funny, I've played just a little, and they're actually fun, but nothing has kept me with them long term. That's one of the games where it's like I tried to find a fun multiplayer game, and it seemed like it had potential, but I don't know. Black Myth Wukong has earned almost $1 billion gross revenue on Steam data claims. Wow, good for them. Amazing. and I haven't got back to it. I love it. I think it's great. One of my favorite games this year. But there's so much else. Um, Jim Kill X, they should try again with Order 1880 and maybe bring back Killzone. Completely agree with all that. That Order series, I think they could expand on that some more. Especially like I feel like that is something that that Order series they could expand that into almost like a monthly, hour long gameplay because there's action in it, sure, but it's really cinematic and it was about that story. And I feel like you could do one of or two of those in your portfolio where it's like this regular content you're interfacing with that's a story. As long as you have other things like you bring up Killzone. Another excellent example of they have an FPS franchise that has a cool name, has a cool aesthetic. It has a fiction, has a world. There's so much you could be doing with that. Just kind of maybe revitalize it a little. That Killzone that came out on PS4, and I forget the name off the top of my head. That almost seemed like they were playing around with the aesthetic and kind of, you know, reworking that. But again, it's like with the Batman versus Superman, Warner Brothers, just kind of after it didn't do as good as they thought, they just kind of dropped that whole idea, and it seems like that's what Sony did with Killzone when they should just continue with it. Even it would be cool if they just went back and just remade Killzone in a way, like maybe make the first 3 games or something, or make like a new Killzone. It's almost like a proof of concept, but it kind of takes the stories from the original, almost like a remake in a way, um, to just modernize some aspects of it. Because when you have that gap, you no longer have a fan base, and then there's no expectation of gameplay. Halo always did a good job of just continuing, so there was always that expectation of gameplay, and they've been able to uphold that expectation. But I think Halo's been around for so long that you can only do so much with the gameplay, and you gotta revolutionize. I think that's kind of why, these newer Star Wars movies or shows haven't really hit the mark because Star Wars was known to kind of revolutionize special effects and filmmaking. Um, yeah, okay, that was a lot I just said. Let's see. Anything else in here that's interesting? When does Black Ops 6 Beta Weekend 2 start and end? That's right. It's coming back. Doesn't say. I could look it up. I don't know if I'll even play the beta. I mean, because I play a little of the beta and it's like, okay, it's fun. I will probably play it when it comes out. Hogwarts Legacy 2 a priority for Warner Brothers games. So that's good to hear because the first one, even though I haven't played it, I hear a lot of good things about it. It did really well. It kind of has that open world, like live in that universe style gameplay, which I'm into. So it's good, despite what's gone on with Warner Brothers games and Justice League, that they're still continuing with those bigger projects. Because again, sometimes you want to be able to rely on those bigger studios, whether that's filmmaking or video games, to push ideas. That normally wouldn't, because you have such a bigger reach with those bigger studios. Star Wars Outlaws creative director a bit disappointed with its review scores. The game's Metacritic score is in the high 70s on all platforms. Interesting. Interesting. I get what's going on here because Star Wars Outlaws is really good. It's just a little too late. But I am in the market for this, so for me it's not too late. I would give this high praises, but I can I can see there's a lot of different aspects to this. One is the kind of general fatigue and sort of this social discourse of Ubisoft when it comes to big corporations, their video games, open world, lots of stuff. That's part of the discussion. The other part of the discussion is the DEI stuff, which while I think there's some apparent DEI stuff in here, it's nothing I think that takes away from the game. But then that conversation happens, and it takes away from the game in that way, which is unfortunate. And the other aspect, I think, just being a Star Wars game after the Acolyte, which even for me, it's very interesting because for a second there, I was like, man, I might not care to play Outlaws because the Acolyte's not that great. Luckily, that wasn't the case. Luckily, Acolyte was its own thing, and I could play Star Wars Outlaws and have a lot of fun with it. But I can see that being another aspect where there are people that are actively avoiding Star Wars or people that are just dismissing this game just by default, which again, as a huge critical Star Wars and video game person, that's something I would do. But for this, there's enough there for me to be like, no, this is something that works, and we need to praise that it works. And I think what that is essentially the developer making the world that feels like a lived-in world is very similar to just talking about Harry Potter. That worked. It feels like a lived-in Harry Potter world, and the Star Wars Outlaws does that really good. But yeah, very interesting. I do think a lot of and I'm seeing it too because I'm looking at influencers that I watch, seeing the conversation where people are dogging on Outlaws to a degree that I think is unnecessary, but it's more of that's just what is happening right now in the social sphere of the discussion. But yeah. Complete mission list in Space Marine 2. Oh, great. Yeah, a lot of cool news about Space Marine 2 is going to be coming out. I mean, it's interesting to think how early a lot of influencers got the game. People have played through it so much. All that data is out there right now. It's like they're not hiding the game. It's like that's when you know the game is good. Yeah. What is this? In-game audio ad? Oh, okay. Oh, again, with the Sony CFO says company doesn't have enough IP, so that's where it came from originally. I'm assuming he just means enough IP that actively engaging IP. It could be what they mean. Let's see. Mighty Keith made a funny video about the dev room discussing how to make the game. It was fair and assessment, but humorous too. Oh, I'll have to check that out. Let's see. Microsoft says Apple makes it impossible to monetize cloud gaming. Oh, those big corporations fighting over getting the money. All right. Well, I think that's about it. I would say not too much is going on, but there is a lot going on. It's just some of the news items, they're big, but not much information. You know, Concord shut down, Switch 2 information imminent, new Sony information imminent, Space Marine 2, Astro Bot come out this week to high reviews. So not a lot of different little things, but just interesting big information news. I can't wait to dive into both Astro Bot and Space Marine 2. I might end up doing that today. I hope they release today because I think Astro Bot's supposed to, Space Marine 2 is supposed to have that release. If not, it'll be later. So maybe I could talk about it tomorrow or not. Yeah, so that's about it. Anyway, all thanks for watching. Have a good rest of the day. We'll talk tomorrow.